Cadarnhad efo ni. Ie, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi. Felly croeso chi i gydbwyllgor corfforaethol canolbarth ar y 4/10 o mis Mai. Un ymddeiriad da fi hyd yma sef Sarah Groves Phillips. Dwi ddim yn ymwybodol o unrhyw un arall. Os rhywun yn gwybod am ymddeiriadau arall? Na, dim byd. Felly, ni'n
Gareth Jones from Banner Brycheiniog.
Yeah, Gareth, please. You come in, Gareth, please.
Apologies. Gareth Jones from Banner Brycheiniog sends his apologies.
Yeah. Okay, diolch yn fawr. Clive?
I was just going to say that Councillor Jake is running into his room, but he's already in the meeting, so he's beat me to it.
Right, Jake. You okay?
Yes, apologies. Sorry, I was having trouble getting in.
Yeah, just going through Apollos and the welcome. Falle dilyn ni ddatgan llongyfarchiadau i bawb oedd yn fuddigol yn yr etholiad. Diolch yn fawr iawn i'r gweinidogon ni wedi bod yn ymwneud gyda yn y weinyddiaeth otha, ond bydden ni'n croesawu cwrdd lan gyda'r gweinidogon perthnasol yn yr weinyddiaeth newydd hefyd. Felly, dwi ddim yn siŵr os y neges na mynd nôl i Llywodraeth Cymru, ond cyn i o ran Jake a mi fydd na parodrwydd i ymgysylltu gyda cyn gyda'r ffosib. Felly, os yw pawb yn hapus gyda yna. Iawn, we're on item 3, Jack, ni ar trydydd eitem sef datgan diddordeb. Sim penderfyniadau i wneud heddi beth bynnag, ond byddwch chi'n ymwybodol erbyn hyn os oes yna rhywbeth yn blaen yn ystod trafodaeth, tynwch yn sylw i beth bynnag. Eitem 4, ni cofnodion y cyfrod otha gath i gynnal ar y 9fed ar 20 o mis Ionawr. Lle cael rhywun i cynnig cywirdeb gyntaf, please. Yeah, Jake yn hapus, okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr iawn. Felly, pawb yn hapus gyda cofnodion, bod ni'n pleidleisio ar hwnna. Diolch yn iawn. Diolch yn fawr, Gareth. Felly, mlaen â ni i'r syth wedyn ni at eitem 5 sef diweddariad ar y cynllun trafnidiaeth rhanbarthol. Rodri, ti sy'n ni cyflwyno ni ar hwn? Neu Carwyn?
Fi'n mynd siŵr, gallai wneud, o'n i'n mynd disgwyl.
Na, Carwyn wedi gweud gynt bydde fe beth bynnag, ond gan bod ti yma hefyd, os ti moyn dod mewn ar unrhyw adeg rod y lawr. Felly, Carwyn, ti'n hapus i roi diweddariad i ni?
Ie, dwi'n ymddihiro fod dwi'n hwyr combination o cyfarfod rhedeg yn hwyr, a wnes i fynd i'r cyfarfod anghywir ar y cyfriadur, ddrwg gyda'i. Ie, yr papur Regional Transport Plan, dyn ni'n cyflwyno. Ymddiheiriad gyn Tom, rheolwr rhaglen trafnidiaeth ni. Chi rei bai ar ein wraig wedi cael plentyn yn gynnar wythnos dwytha, ond dwi falch o gadarnhau fod pawb yn iach ac yn iawn a llongyfarchiadau iddyn nhw fel teulu. Adroddiad i ddiweddaru chi fel cydbwyllgor ydy hwn ar y cynllun trafnidiaeth rhanbarthol. Fel mae aelodau yn ymwybodol, mae y rhanbarth Canolbarth Cymru wedi derbyn swm sylweddol arian i'w ddilifro yn y flwyddyn ariannol yma gan Llywodraeth Cymru. Mae hyn yn dilyn sawl mis o waith ar cynllun datblygu rhanbarthol dros y flwyddyn dwytha a gwaith cynllunio gweithredu eitha manwl ar draws y ddau gyngor sir a Tom yn y swydd rhanbarthol dros y misoedd dwytha. Pwrpas yr adroddiad ydy jyst i diweddaru lle mae pethau arni. So, fel mae aelodau'n ymwybodol, ni wedi derbyn dyraniad o 13.1 miliwn i Canolbarth Cymru o arian cyfalaf i weithredu y cynlluniau sydd yn y cynllun rhanbarthol. So, mi gafodd yr cynllun i'w gymeradwyo nôl yn mis Medi 2025, a hwnna ydy'r fframwaith sy'n gosod allan lle mae'r buddsoddiadau trafnidiaeth rhanbarthol yn mynd i fynd ar draws Ceredigion a Powys. Mi gafodd bach o drafodaeth rownd llywodraethiant a sut dyn ni'n rheoli yr arian. Fel mae aelodau'n ymwybodol, dyn ni'n rhedeg cydbwyllgor corfforedig Canolbarth Cymru ar sail cytundeb cydweithio rhwng Ceredigion a Powys a trio gwneud hynny yn y ffordd galla o ran ychwanegu gwerth ychwanegol i'r pwrs cyhoeddus a cadw costa gweinyddu mor isel â phosib o ganlyniad mi gafodd yr swm ariannu y cyfalaf i'w ddyrannu rhwng Powys a Ceredigion i gyd fynd ar cynlluniau o fewn y cynllun. Yn hytrach na roedd y gyd fewn yn y cydbwyllgor corfforedig, cafwyd cytundeb i barchu y trefniadau sydd gyda ni yng Nghanolbarth Cymru ac i ddirannu fo rhwng Powys a Ceredigion o ran yr arian cyfalaf. Hefyd derbynwyd arian revenue o grant i'r cydbwyllgor corfforedig o 467,000 mwyn rheoli'r rhaglen, so mae hwnna'n talu am gyflog Tom a'r tîm a hefyd ar draws y ddau gyngor sir i weithredu'r rhaglen. Felly, o ran ochr derbyn yr arian, mae popeth wedi cael ei arwyddo. Mae'r llythyrau cytundeb, llythyrau grant i gyd wedi arwyddo i gyd mewn lle bellach. So, o ran yr rhaglen gyfalaf sydd wedi cael ei gytuno, na ddim drwy'n fanwl iawn, maen nhw gyd yn adran 5 o'r adroddiad, a fel welwch chi, mae yna sawl cynllun ar draws Ceredigion a Powys wedi cael i'w glusnodi i'w gweithredu blwyddyn ariannol yma, a mae'r tîmau yn y ddau gyngor sir wedi bod yn gweithio yn galed i sicrhau fod cynlluniau mewn lle i ddilifro nhw, ond mae yna tabl fan'na yn adran 5.2 sy'n gosod allan y split ariannol rhwng yr cynlluniau gwahanol. Ar y tudalen wedyn, mae jyst rhaglen waith amserlen eitha lefel uchel, jyst fod aelodau'n ymwybodol, ac rili roid y sicrwydd i chi fod na gynllunio manwl yn digwydd ar lefel swyddogion rwan i weithredu'r rhaglen. Mae yna cyfarfodydd swyddogion eitha rheolaidd mewn lle rwan i fonitro cynnydd ar y rhaglen, a fod pethau'n fod ni'n cwrdd o'r disgwyliadau a'r gofynion gyn y Llywodraeth. Mae'n iawn i mi nodi wrth aelodau fod Llywodraeth Cymru wedi codi sawl her a sawl risg i ni fel rhanbarth o ffaith fod ni wedi derbyn swm sylweddol arian ydy'r gallu ganddo ni ddilifro. Mae'r wybodaeth yn fan'na'n eitha clir yn yr adroddiad, a gobeithio ydych chi fel aelodau yn cael y sicrwydd, fel mae yna lot o waith cynllunio wedi digwydd ar draws y ddau gyngor sir. Mae'r cynlluniau yn cael ei arwain gyn yn adrannau trafnidiaeth ni yn y ddau gyngor sir. Mae yna gydweithio da rhwngthyn nhw, a mae yna cydgordio da yn digwydd ar sail swyddogion o ran Tom, sy'n gwneud siŵr fod ni'n cadw pethau on track, really. O ran heriau, o ran risgiau penodol yn adran 6, fel dwi'n dweud, i leihau risg yna o fod ni ddim yn dilifro, mae'r 467,000 na sydd wedi cael ei ddirannu fel arian grant yn mynd fewn i fuddsoddi mewn capacity rheolaeth rhaglen ar draws y ddau gyngor sir, fel dwi'n dweud, i wneud siŵr fod ni'n gwneud y job dyn ni fod i wneud rili o ran monitro'r grant. Hefyd, yr is-bwyllgor trafnidiaeth rhanbarthol wedi cael ei sefydlu rwan yn sicrhau fod nhw'n monitro cynnydd y rhaglenni neu'r prosiectau i wneud siŵr fod tasa na danwariant neu tasa fod na prosiectau'n llithro. Mae yna restr wrth gefn sydd wedi cael ei gytuno gyn yr is-bwyllgor trafnidiaeth i wneud siŵr fod na backup neu plan B tasa pethau'n llithro. So, jyst o rhan argymellion, does na ddim penderfyniadau neu jyst adroddiad gwybodaeth ac i roi sicrwydd i chi gobeithio fod pethau lle maen nhw fod o ran y cynllun trafnidiaeth rhanbarthol. Ymddiheuro fod y manylder yn wan gynnau, ond mae'r hodri yma, os dim i reid fo'r ysbot os rwy'n i fynd fewn i'r cynlluniau, mae'n fwy manwl. Diolch.
Na, diolch fawr. Cyn bod fi'n nhw yn y Jake, felly Rodri, ti moyn ychwanegu rhywbeth i'r adroddiad?
Yr unig beth i ychwanegu ar hyn o bryd yw bod y adroddiad wedi mynd ger bron yr is-bwyllgor trafnidiaeth bore dydd Llun diwetha, a bod ni wrthi nawr yn trefnu dyddiadau ar gyfer rhaglen ar gyfer yr is-bwyllgor yn symud ymlaen. Bydd yn cyd-fynd gyda'r dyddiadau i ni'n adrodd i Llywodraeth Cymru, felly bod yr is-bwyllgor yn gallu gweld rheini cyn bod ni'n rhoi nhw mewn i Llywodraeth Cymru na gyd.
Ie, na, diolch o'r ti. A fel wedi sydd ddechrau o ran y gweinidogion perthnasol, gen i Mark Hooper, gen i'r gweinidog newydd dros trafnidiaeth. Felly, falle bydde werth touch base gyda fe, wel beth yw deiadau nhw hefyd fel gweinidogion. Felly, ie, Diolch yn fawr i'r ddoi o'na chi. Jake nesaf, please.
Thank you very much. You've just mentioned the relevant Minister, Mark Hooper, but of course we've got Sian Gwenllian, who represents local government here. And just in sort of starting a discourse perhaps on this item, could I just say, you know, it really is, I think, a sensible approach that we've adopted here to passport the monies directly into the authorities on an agreed basis. And it really is an exemplar of how we do work together here, having the CJC, but using the strengths of that to then work through our organisations for delivery and for managing the finances. That's fantastic. 13 million is a big chunk of money. And I think that we've seen some of the items set out there, and as we progress, they're targeted quite early, aren't they? We're already into the start of this work. It would be quite good to see opportunities to get our communications sorted, to celebrate some of these projects as they start to come forward, to explain to our residents exactly what we're doing on their behalf to spend this £13 million. And where possible, of course, as I indicated, this is money that's come from elsewhere. Bring in those cabinet members of the new Senedd to join in that celebration of success with us. So I just really wanted to flag that. This is a good news story to have been so successful in getting this funding, to have rallied round and organised ourselves in the way that we have so quickly to both protect that funding and to demonstrate clear delivery, and now let's showcase that through some sensible comms is really what I'm using this opportunity to say. So thanks, Brian, and thanks to the team.
Na, diolch yn fawr am y sylw na, Jake. Yn absenoldeb Annelias, felly dylwn ni fod yn diolch i Ian hefyd a'r swyddogion arall sydd wedi bod yn gwneud gwaith rhagorol i cyrraedd blaen ni. Rodri, dyr y tîm nhw'n
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Just to pick up on Councillor Berryman's comments or suggestions there about the communications around this. There was an action from the subcommittee meeting on Monday for John and myself to liaise with Tom on his return and to work with Carwyn and the team to generate some positive news stories around this, because it is very positive news for Mid Wales. So we'll be looking to action that as soon as possible.
Gret, diolch yn fawr ti, Rodri. Os yna sylwadau neu cwestiynau arall? Na, i nodi mae'r papur beth bynnag diweddar a diwe. Mae'r is-bwyllgor yn mynd rhagddi beth bynnag. Felly, os yw pawb yn apus, newn ni symud ymlaen i'r eitem nesaf nawr, sef diweddariad ar y lles economaidd. Felly, Gareth, hapus bod ni'n symud ymlaen. Felly, lles economaidd, ti Carwyn sy'n gwylio unwaith eto?
Ie, dwi'n ymddihiro am gwneud dipyn o siarad i wneud pnawn yma efo chi, ond am resymau gwahanol, achos dydy Tom na Sarah methu bod efo ni. Ond o ran y papur yma, diweddariad ar lles economaidd, if it's okay with members, I'll continue in English just because it's easier to try and talk in English, I'm afraid, on this subject matter. So, as members will be aware, we in the absence of a formal subcommittee for economic well-being, what this update tends to do is bring together everything that we do under that sort of joint partnership banner we've got in Growing Mid Wales. So it brings together updates on the Regional Skills Partnership, Mid Wales Growth Deal, the Energy Work, and UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Local Growth Fund. I'd probably focus mainly on the Local Growth Fund because that's the main area of development from you as members that you might not have seen recently. But I'll just run through quickly in terms of the report. The update on the Regional Skills Partnership, I think members will be aware from the last Growing Mid Wales board meeting, so I won't cover in too much detail, but just to say that the post-16 mapping work is continuing across the region. So Dai and the team are engaging quite closely with local authority colleagues, FE sort of partners, businesses. There is I think has been a bit of a disappointing response from businesses to the survey. So the team are pushing that hard now through sort of, not just from the comms perspective, but also working with colleagues, Daniel and Arwyn and their delivery teams, both in Powys and Ceredigion, just to ensure there's a bit more of a hand-holding and conversation and even if it goes out to meet some of the businesses to talk to them to try and fill in the survey, because that is the challenge. I think any business, they see a survey from the public sector and immediately glaze over, but it is really quite important for businesses to fill in that survey, because it is about ensuring that we've got that evidence and that sort of baseline of what the private sector's needs are, and that will then inform and join up with the conversations around, from the growth deal perspective, the developments around Cymru Tech and Lampeter, particularly sort of centred around that sort of post-16 reform. Quite a lot of work going on there to try and shore up, I suppose, the evidence base on the business need and demand. So quite a lot, and hopefully as members, that addresses some comments we've received, particularly Growing Mid Wales board recently, around that engagement with businesses across Ceredigion and Powys. So just to reassure, very much the team are going out to meet businesses across the region now and having those conversations. In relation to the Mid Wales growth deal, we have got a Growing Mid Wales board next week, which will cover the most recent updates. But I think we're in still a pretty good position. You know, I know members won't have an update with the pre-election period having just passed, but the projects that were still on the table before are still on the table, and no substantive changes. There'll be a further update on some of the projects, as I said, next week, which I won't go into today. But broadly speaking, you know, we've had an initial draft from Savills on the pipeline work now, and I'll update board next week on the detail of that as well. So without going into too much detail, things are progressing on track. No major changes. And we'll have a conversation next week. On the regional energy front, the big piece of work there is around the strategic energy planning piece. So there have been conversations with, and both leaders will be aware, that the National Energy Systems Operator are sort of developing strategic energy plans across Wales. From a Mid Wales standpoint, this is really important stuff to get right and to ensure we've got input on. So there's been conversations on ensuring we've got political input and representation on these groups, as well as developing a forum both for Ceredigion and Powys, both political and officer level, to have a conversation now in June with the National Energy System Operator to effectively feed in some of those challenges and aspirations around sort of the energy system. So this is about system planning of energy. The team, as you've seen in the update, they continue to sort of have quite regular meetings with DNOs and the systems operator and get quite a lot of in this update. I do acknowledge, but fundamentally there's a lot of work going on in this space, with, as I said, discussions are lined up for the summer now, and it's quite critical that those align also with thinking in the two local authorities around energy opportunities, particularly. USRID, the Whole Systems Research and Innovation in Decarbonisation. So as members will be aware, there's a suite of projects there that will be funded by Welsh Government. We are keen to showcase some of those now in the Royal Welsh Show, and from my perspective, we've had the funding. So the question very much, what I'm driving the team to, is like, what next? So we can trial things, we can pilot scale, we can develop some of the concepts, but we need some of the big money now to actually deliver and roll them out at scale. So very much the gearing in the Royal Welsh is around hopefully looking at a day, particularly the forestry and hydrogen one is looking potentially exciting. Natural Resources Wales are on board with that one, and again, see where the conversations go in the Royal Welsh, and clearly from a political perspective, working with you as members to ensure that we, I think, have a very strong proposition to the new administration in the Welsh Government on our energy portfolio. So in short, on the energy front, quite a lot of work going on, a lot of it now in terms of the planning for the future. I try and ensure we got the right representation in those conversations around the strategic energy system and the planning side of it over the summer, and then try and showcase and promote the opportunities we've got from the activity we've run in the last few months. Item 5 is a quick update on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and that's now largely drawing to a close. So I'm pleased to say, again, similar to the comments on regional transport, that's a model where we've had two local authorities work alongside each other as part of a regional partnership arrangement under one regional plan, and that's successfully now being drawn to a close. So we're in the final months of delivery. There was a short time extension up to September of this year on that programme. So again, my work with the team has been on focusing on the close down of current projects. There was an agreement that a short time extension to September would be prudent to ensure that we don't bring projects to a premature close. It's about impact and lasting impact from that investment. So very much on programme closure now, maximising outputs and outcomes, and maximising the learning opportunities as well, because the Shared Prosperity Fund was an opportunity for, as local authorities, for us to be able to demonstrate much greater alignment with our local wellbeing objectives and our local plans than perhaps that had been historically been the case with funding prior to the Shared Prosperity Fund. So very much focus of the teams has been on sort of delivering good impacts, good results. We've had our evaluation for the programme, which makes for positive reading, and it is about now sharing the impact and results of that programme now to help inform future activity, which then leads me to item 6, which is the local growth fund. So as members will be aware, I think I had a very high level update in the last meeting on this, and this is where most of the progress has been in recent weeks and months during the pre-election period. So just before the pre-election period, the outgoing ministers and the Welsh Government had agreed an investment plan with UK Government on the local growth fund. So the local growth fund is the new sort of, I won't, it's a successor to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, but it's not a replacement. And Welsh Government and UK Government are quite keen to stress that it is the new funding arrangement for supporting economic development, skills and employability and place-based investments, but it is very much of a different focus and scale to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So in terms of focus, very much it is very much a productivity focus. It's about growth, in trying to achieve growth in the economy. Scale is also somewhat different. It is much smaller than the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. Whilst there is an agreement that Welsh Government is the accountable body for Wales, so the funding effectively comes from Westminster to Cardiff, and then there's the agreement to work with the 4 regions of Wales in terms of delivery. Again, members will note we have taken precedent from our current working arrangements and have worked with Welsh Government successfully to achieve a delivery consistent with Shared Prosperity Fund and the Regional Transport Plan arrangements, where we've got a partnership of 2 local authorities working alongside each other, delivering a regional investment plan. The challenge we've got there is that's okay and been agreed for the first year. So the Local Growth Fund is a 3-year programme, so starting from this year, 26-27, going into 27-28 and 28-29. However, this delivery arrangement is, I think, fair to say, a little bit up in the air, because the current Welsh Government and the mandate from the outgoing political administration was that they would wish to see an enhanced role for the Corporate Joint Committee in years 2 and 3. However, I think that is subject to an ongoing conversation, and as political leaders, we will want to have further conversations with you on what that looks like in Mid Wales in terms of years 2 and 3. From sort of our working assumption and our standpoint as an executive administration underneath yourselves as political leaders currently, we've continued with our mandate and what's been agreed previously, that the CJC is a light touch model in Mid Wales. We are not supportive of putting any sort of funding into it, and we will continue the partnership arrangements that we have in the region to deliver that. And that's been the model that we're working on currently. There's a lot of work happening in this space currently. Nothing has been agreed in terms of years 2 and 3 yet, so that's why there isn't a more formal proposal or sort of a plan in place as yet. I think in terms of where are we at in terms of the transition year, so we have had our grant offer letter for this financial year for 26-27, so that's for 11.33 million. So that is an order of magnitude less than what we had in the Shared Prosperity Fund, which was 42 million over 3 years, where this is going to be in the realms of about 33 million over 3 emails, 3 years. The other challenge of the local growth fund, it is predominantly capital funding. So it's about 70% of it, the allocation being capital funding, and 30% being sort of revenue. And there's a small amount of that is allowable to support program management and delivery, which, as you can start to work out, mental arithmetic, it's not a lot of money to cover quite a lot of ground in terms of what we need to try and do in Mid Wales. So the priorities of the local growth fund is around supporting businesses, which is the first priority. Second priority around supporting people and employment and skills. And then there's a third priority around sort of supporting sort of more place-based investment, sort of in local infrastructure piece, which could support energy, which could support heritage sort of infrastructure schemes, and quite a lot of scope there to do quite a lot of things. But the challenge both local authorities have now, and the teams working with partners in their local communities and multiple stakeholders in different sectors, is now to try and resolve. I'm trying to square off, I suppose, that the ambition from the previous administration was quite ambitious. The level of funding is by order of magnitude smaller. And it comes down to practical reality in terms of how we filter and make decisions for year one. It is mindful that this is 70% capital funding. The prioritisation exercise is pretty much what have we got in both local authorities, and we've agreed previously that wants to be delivered, and what is practical and possible and realistic to be delivered in that first year. And the reason why I refer to that first year is, again, we've only had a grant offer letter for the first year. We've only got agreement for the delivery model for the first year. And Welsh Government is obviously clearly keen to have a conversation around years 2 and 3 in future scheme delivery. So very much from a planning perspective on year one, that the officer teams are very much focused on year one and what can be delivered this year. Internally, both local authorities, the detail of what the LGF will be supporting is being shared internally. So I'm not providing any detail of that at this stage, and it is subject to internal approvals and discussions anyway. So it wouldn't be appropriate for me in this public forum to discuss what kind of projects are being discussed currently, but moreover, just assurance of the process and the way things are being developed. I think in terms of the sort of years 2 and 3 piece, I can confirm that a grant of £200,000 has been awarded to the Corporate Joint Committee to pursue that. So we do have a bit of resource to look into that. However, as officers, we are not able yet to communicate a plan to you as members, because as of today I still haven't received the guidance from Welsh Government as to what their expectations are in relation to years 2 and 3 and the development of a potential regional growth plan. So very much on local growth fund, we are doing our best to be sort of pragmatic, to be positive and realistic as to local authorities, deliver what we can, best of what we can in the circumstances for the first year. And then there's a separate sort of work stream and sort of that'll need to happen in parallel with yourself as political members around sort of the future in years 2 and 3. So it's about being pragmatic and what we can deliver for now. I think the only other issue to mention is in item 6.10, just to draw members' attention to that. We do have a concern active with Welsh Government currently around eligibility and the skills and employability priority. Both in Ceredigion and Powys, we have been supporting, which is effectively pre-NEET activity, so supporting young people that are potentially about to become out of leave education or not enter education or employment or training. Welsh Government has taken the view that this funding should only support 16 plus. We have quite the strong view in from a Mid Wales perspective that the intervention should be supporting that 14 to 16 category, and the rationale being that, well, if we wait until they're 16 plus, and if we wait until they become NEETs or not in education, employment or training, then we will have lost the opportunity to intervene, and from a Mid Wales standpoint, they will have left our rural areas. So we very much sort of have escalated that issue, and an email has been sent to the director of the Welsh Government's formal communication has been sent escalating that as an issue. But I just need to make members aware, we have got a concern there. Otherwise, I think, as I said, in summary on the local growth fund, I think doing our best, I suppose, as officers to try and sort of plan what we can for this year. We have got challenges in terms of lack of guidance. You know, we are in the middle of May. This funding is supposed to be delivered from the 1st of April. So it is a challenge. However, that's where we are with the local growth fund, and I think that's it for the report.
Reit, diolch yn fawr, di Carwyn, tipyn o wybodaeth ar gwahanol beth yna. Falle er gwybodaeth, falle dylen ni sôn nes i a y rai swyddogion Cerrigon cwrdd gyda EDF ddo. A oedd rhywun gyda nhw o Aden Hydrogen EDF o'r enw Pete Fear. Felly oedd e wedi rhoi cyflwyniad i'r CJC, wel i'r growth deal yn Gogledd Cymru. Felly nes i awgrymu dyle fe fod yn siarad ar ni yn y canolbarth. Felly, tebyg canolbarth fydd lle fanna beth bynnag, ond gan bod wedi sôn am egni, Carwyn, felly bydde werth bod ni yn trial creu'r cyswllt na gyda EDF, achos nath sawl aelod i ni cwrdd lan yn Kevin Croes a cwbl o fisoedd nôl, ble o nawgrym mi fydde electrolyser yn cael ei osod fyny. Felly bydde hwnna yn ddelfrydol i gofynion a wedi dod Cerrigion a Fowys yn ogystal fel cwsmeriad posib. Felly, sa'n gweld niwed yn falle roi'r gwahoddiadau i Pete Fear i ddod. Mae manylion i ddilyn beth bynnag oddi wrth EDF o ran i manylion cyswllt. Felly, ti'n meddwl bydde werth i ni bwrw ymlaen gyda nhw. Anffurfiol oedd y cyfarfod beth bynnag.
Cwestiwn i fi yna, Arwyn?
Ie, na, ti'n meddwl bydde werth i ni roi'r cynnig na?
Barn fi, mae'n werth cael sgwrs anffurfiol, felly os ydy Arweinydd Powys yn cytuno, fel chi eisiau cwrdd yn anffurfiol, ie. Ond, ie.
Yeah, Jack?
Yeah, I'm really happy to do that, and not a problem at all. And when we've finished this item, I wanted to come to energy more broadly as well, and got a few points on that. But yes, I'm happy to do that. I think we should pursue every opportunity to have these constructive discussions about the opportunities for energy across our region.
Do you want to come in on energy now anyway, Jack? As energy was mentioned, sending current support.
Yeah, I'll start with energy if you like then. So just on and then I'll just run through my list if that's okay. So just on the energy side, obviously we've got the strategic energy plans. We've got the NISO stuff that they're driving across Wales, and I'm not clear from the correspondence that I've received, and I know we've just exchanged some emails, what the process is, and whether we need to work with through the system of the CJC or just our authorities to ensure that either you or I, Brian, get onto that those strategic arrangements for NISO, because I do think we need a voice, and I'm more than happy for you to go forward with your experience. But together, unless we sort of formally agree it might just fall between the gaps, and we won't actually do what we're meant to do to just make sure we've got that voice. So if someone can take that away and just advise either the CJC and ourselves, constituent bodies, as to just how we maximise that opportunity. Just staying on energy, Carwyn, did you want to answer that point?
I can come back to that point. I suppose it's ultimately, down to you both as how you want to play this. I think you have the ability to engage individuals directly as local authorities in relation to the engagement, or you can also resolve to represent the CJC. I think the trouble we've got with CJC at the moment is not everybody understands it, and particularly in Mid Wales how we run it, because I think there's an assumption of, people look at CJC and they look at Cardiff and then think, oh, everyone's the same. But fundamentally, this one isn't. I think my recommendation with you to you both would be, well, you could play both cards if you play it intelligently enough. I think the CJC would probably need to resolve and probably decide actually which leader probably represents the CJC in terms of those discussions, and then individuals, local authorities, it gives the opportunity for you also to follow those channels. So you've got the twin track approach would be my recommendation.
Yes, I mean, I think the point is, I think Brian and I need some advice as to how to play that strategically, so that we're not at cross purposes. That's the last thing I'd want to happen. We want to maximise, not minimise our opportunity. So perhaps, I don't know, you and Diane or something can take that away and give us some.
We'll take an action
advice.
to have a conversation with corporate directors.
Yeah. Just in respect of the LAPE, and this is a hangover for me in another area. The LAPE indicates that advisory panels will be set up, and through those advisory panels, more detailed work will be done. Now, my view, and I just welcome some feedback on this, is that actually, whilst we have all of this DNO, this NESO stuff going on, that rather takes precedence over us looking through advisory panels at distribution and grid connectivity and capacity, etc. Not necessarily to answer now, Carwyn, but it would be useful just to have if you like, a view from the LAPE. And I know that's a growing Mid Wales thing, not a CJC thing, but seeing as we've touched on energy and there's the overlap, I thought I'd just raise it now to just draw out some feedback, if I might, appropriately. Can I just go back to regional skills? At the head of the paper, I just wanted to really thank colleagues from the Regional Skills Partnership for coming this week into Powys and assisting with the engagement that we had right across the council chamber with all members. There was a development piece looking at post-14 education, economic development and growth, and the real importance about how we make our young people work ready, and so it was a little bit concerning when you said that the engagement with business wasn't as strong as it might have been, and I was relieved to hear that was being picked up again, because obviously we've got to ensure that they're ready for businesses today and businesses of the future, and I do think we're doing some sterling work on that, and I just want to ensure to thank you for that, but ensure that we do keep our foot on the accelerator with that. The next point I just wanted to raise was, we've referred a couple of times to the special nature of the CJC model that we have here in Mid Wales. And I come, Brian, to your initial point that you raised. And I do wonder whether, as joint chairs of the CJC, whether we need to possibly from the CJC communicate early to the First Minister to set out the case, as it were, for operating the light touch CJC we do, bearing in mind the difference between this government and the outgoing one in respect of CJC. So early representation, I suspect, wouldn't hurt there, and I just throw that out for consideration.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, Jake, because we've mentioned some ministers already, but with regards post-16 education, we need to get in touch with Kevin Campbell as well, energy, Adam Price. You mentioned Sian Gwyllian, well, she comes under planning as well. So, if there is a future for the CJC, we need to have them around the table anyway. Just for your information, Jake, I was part of Powys's PR a couple of weeks ago, and their main focus was the CJC. So, what messages have they had from the WLJ or Welsh Gov? I'm not sure, but that was the main focus of questioning me anyway. So it'll be interesting what comes out in the watch-on for that one anyway. So. Felly mae yna gweithred i gael fyna beth bynnag Carwyn a Dian i ddilyn trwyddo o ran y NISO beth bynnag, ond fel wedodd Jake yn awr eto, byddai'n neis i gael ateb pendant beth yw dyfodol CJC's beth bynnag, a gewn i'r ateb, fi ddim yn siŵr. Ond amser ni edrych mlaen am blwyddyn 2 a blwyddyn 3, wel, byddai'n neis i gael rhyw fath o sicrwydd os yw'r CJC's mynd i bodoli. Felly, Carwyn, ti'n mynd yn ôl ar hwnna?
Yeah, a couple of things, I suppose, in response to Councillor Jake's sort of comments there. So I'll go back to the local area energy action plans. I think the work of the team there is largely dependent on the steer now from Welsh Government and the new administration on where they want to take the local area energy action plans. Because we've, I think, 2-3 years now, we've been funded to help the development and early delivery information of the local area energy action plans. Catherine and the team as yet have no strategic steer from the civil service side of Welsh Government on where next. I think the challenge with local area energy action plans is They are vast, they're well intended, both local authorities have adopted them. So from a Growing Mid Wales standpoint, it's been the case of coordination, bringing things together, ensure both local authorities were able to develop them. But we're largely in the zone and space now of, I suppose, very early strategic conversations with Welsh Government, pending the new administration, and once that's settled. In terms of portfolio, energy sits under Adam Price. So I'm assuming there will be a conversation there at some point when information trickles down, the likely direction of travel. I think that the challenge with the local energy action plans is the sufficiency of resource to actually deliver on the actions. Also, a lot of the actions are multiple. They're wicked problems, aren't they? They're not owned by the local authority in that sense. The local authority was asked to sort of consider and approve it, but the actions within are actually a collective effort across many sectors and partners. So I think for Catherine and the team, the focus very much is on where next. Just to ensure that the point is not missed, Chair, I'm happy to take an action that the next update in the next CJC just provides an update on LEPs, where we're at and what's happening, and what the team interpret to be the latest there, so that hopefully answers the question down the line. We don't lose sight of that. In relation to the point around the ministerial engagement, we do have the opportunity potentially in the Royal Welsh around sort of ministerial engagement. The main avenue we've got from a Growing Mid Wales standpoint is the growth deal. So we are working as officials with both governments now on trying to get that sort of usual joint meeting in the Royal Welsh with leaders, and it'll be Adam Price as the economy lead, I'm assuming, unless the growth deal sits somewhere else. But I'm assuming it would be Adam Price, and then with potentially Joe Stevens or a representative of Wales Office in that. I can't remember the last point, Councillor Davies, in terms of to come back to.
Dyfodol cydbwyllgor un Carwyn.
In relation to the future of the Joint Committee, Corporate Joint Committee, I suppose it's up to you as members how you want to engage. We could be proactive and send a letter to new ministers once we're established, where obviously the local government minister is Sian Gwynllian. Depends on how proactive you want to be to set out. Congratulations on your appointment, sort of thing, and let's have a conversation about the future of CJCs. I think that's up to you how you want to play that.
Yeah, I think my message with regards to the PR was, even if the CJC finished tomorrow, hopefully we could still work in partnership with Powys on different things anyway. And I think we've established a good relationship, and hopefully that will last, whether we're part of the CJC or not anyway. So yeah, I think Jake, you'll be of the same opinion there. I think anyway, wouldn't you?
Yes, and I'm very happy to be proactive here. I know they'll have a pile of letters in their inbox, but let's get on the first foot and be proactive and welcoming, and try and move with some pace with the new administration if we can.
So, with regards engagement anyway, Jake, should we just be writing to the First Minister, or shall we include the 4 ministers we've mentioned? I leave that to officers possibly to find out what's the best way forward. Gweithred arall, Carwyn, okay?
Well, we'll take that as an action. I'll have a chat with, we'll take it forward with Diane and Barry with the conversations around the energy bits as well. We'll come forward back with a proposal.
Okay, great. Diolch iawn ti, Carwyn. Any more questions or comments on that paper? No. So we'll move on to the final paper then. Felly'r cynllun datblygu strategol, the SDP, and say in Sarah's absence, Carwyn will lead us through this as well.
Unfortunately, myself again. And I'm not Sarah, as you rightly pointed out. So I'll try and do it justice. Sarah's report is quite comprehensive in relation to where things are at in relation to the strategic development plan. So as members will be aware, there is a strategic development plan committee. However, it hasn't met in recent times, but work has been ongoing at an officer level. So the purpose of this report is to provide an update to yourselves as the CJC members on what the SDB subgroup has been doing in terms of the conversations in relation to the LDP. So in short, the SDP delivery agreement has not progressed. because of a combination of practical and strategic issues. Fundamentally, we've got the dynamic of the LDP being in different stages across 3 constituent planning authorities. We have got regional planning constraints, challenges, capacity and constraint issues. We have the absence of finalised national guidance from Welsh Government in terms of the SDP manual. And we've also got some ambiguity, or some significant ambiguity, in relation to the new national park designation in North Powys. So together, the subgroup has concluded that we would not be able, or not in a position, to progress a formal delivery agreement at this stage, due to it being a disproportionate risk and not being an effective use of limited regional resources. There has been a discussion with Welsh Government and a proposal to the outgoing Minister around a proposal for a regional planning and development skills hub. However, we're assuming, due to timescales, a decision could not be made in terms of supporting the resourcing of that, because the administration was outgoing and was not able to make funding commitments into the following financial year. So that is a little bit in limbo now, and will need to be picked up with the incoming administration in Cardiff Bay, and let's see how far that group can take that proposal of how we propose to take forward that joint collaboration on that planning piece together, without having to do that sort of the SDP formally. I think the other sort of mention is sort of, as sort of in the report, has been a lot of joint sharing of evidence and discussions as teams, which appears to be very positive. So at least of all, the officers just haven't been discussing the fact we can't do an SDP. So Trist, I'm very sad we can't do anything. It's been a case of a collaborative discussion around some of the planning related issues, particularly around the energy related schemes. So the conversations around the ownership strategies, the community benefit fund, and how we secure those community or profit shares, community benefits or profit shares from those potential developments. So from an officer level perspective, whilst the progress on the SDP is not to the expectations required of Welsh Government as of the previous administration, there has been collaboration and joint discussions to progress some key issues in relation to planning in the region. I think the final point to sort of mention, I suppose, is that there are clear regional resource constraints, as Sarah notes in the workforce impact sort of piece of her update. And that's part of why the shared sort of planning skills hub is being proposed as a potential solution, because currently it's a collection of well-meaning officers from Bala Brycheiniog, Powys, Ceredigion coming together, trying to progress issues. The very clear message from that officer team currently is, well, if we want to take things forward in the region, if we want to be grappling with this, SDP or no SDP, it's about collaboration, and for that collaboration to happen, there needs to be a recognition that there needs to be an uplifted resource, basically. I think that hopefully I've done justice. The only, again, no actions required, no recommendation or decision required in terms of the report. It's just an update on where we're at with those elements.
Ie, diolch yn fawr ti, Cawren, fel wedi nodi mae'r papur, felly Jake, David, nesaf, please.
Yes, thank you. And I note the work on the skills hub to date, and I do hope that the appetite to develop that we saw with the outgoing minister remains the case with the new government. That is something that is a definite must for us to pursue. We've got gaps in our strategic planning skills here. I know they have in Bannau Brycheiniog, and with yourselves as well. These gaps arise and are really, really hard to fill, to get strategic planners in place. And the more we work together to fill both that gap, but some of the specialist skills, whether it's conservation or wildlife and ecological issues, etc., we need to develop strength across our sub-region by working together in this way. So that's a good model to pursue. We need to press on with that as best we can. But whilst I note where we are with the SDP formal and in particular in relation to the risks, we clearly can't proceed on the basis of where we stand with those risks at the moment. But I understood there was a piece of work that we were looking to pull together a strategic planning statement, an SPS, if you like, rather than SPD, which is something more akin to our sitting down and understanding, Brian, our shared ambitions for this area of Central Wales across our two councils, because one of the things that I think we'll see emerging out of our peer panel assessment is the fact that, we have an ambition here to protect our respond to the demographic we've got, protect the economy, help it to grow, and to do that we've got to keep our young people, which we've seen in the papers already. And the reality is that with Future Wales development allocations coming down to us in this sparsely populated area of Central Wales, growth is not really an option unless we change Future Wales. And I think there's an opportunity for us to have this strategic planning statement to set out our appetite for growth and to development, clearly state what our ambition is to repopulate our rural areas and grow in our villages in a sustainable way to support Welsh language development, etc., in those areas. And to do all of that, to make sure we then have a very clear basis with which to go to the new government to say, when you review Future Wales, which they're going to do as a matter of urgency, this is the ambition that we have. This is the voice, the collective voice that we have for this area set out in our strategic planning statement, which, it might be a 4-page statement, it might be a 20-page statement, but it needs to express our ambition. And I've lost sight of that a little bit. And I just want to check where we are. And if there isn't a clear programme of that, can I encourage that we carry on working together on that, Brian?
Yeah, well, this is too simplistic view, but with regards to, corporate strategies, could we take snippets out of Ceredigion and Powys, or is that too simplistic view, Jake?
I think the problem is with where we are with our corporate strategies at the moment. They sit within the context of the old administration, Future Wales as was, and that, of course, provided severe downward pressure on growth within Powys, and I'm sure it's the same in Ceredigion. They had a particular view of sustainable development, which didn't see it as we do, Brian, which is helping our small communities to be self-sustaining, to see growth there. In fact, it was the opposite of what we might wish to achieve, and therefore I don't think they would be fit for purpose necessarily as we look forward to this new ambition and seek to shape a new Future Wales where rural issues are given greater precedence.
Okay, o ran datganiadau cynllunio strategol, Carwyn, ti'n mynd i mewn a hapus bod mae Ifan yn yw'n hefyd ysgwmaen ar hwnna, bethau. Carwyn gynta de?
Ia, eto, nid fi di sera, so dwi ddim yn lle gorau atab Councillor Jake o ran y cwestiwn o ran lle dyn ni arni efo'r strategic planning statement a'r trafodaethau yna, ond beth sy'n ni'n gynghori di fod ni'n cymryd cam gweithredol i'r tîm i edrych arno fo a rhoi diweddariad i'r pwyllgor nesaf. Chos dwi ddim yn siŵr lle mae peth arni. Dwi'n gwybod bod yna drafodaeth wedi bod, ond dwi'n meddwl peth gorau i wneud ydy cymryd cam gweithredu. Dwi'n hapus i gymryd cam gweithredu i siarad efo Sarah a'r tîm i roi diweddariad mwy ffurfiol i chi.
Ie, tegwch, bod ni'n nodi beth mae Jake wedi gweud a bod ni'n cytuno falle edrych arno fe, wel beth sy'n bosib. Beth bynnag. Happy with that approach, Jake? Yeah.
Yes, of course I am, Brian. I didn't expect anything definitive now, and it's got to be collaborations. We don't do that on the hoof.
No, exactly. Na. Ie, rhywbeth ydi edrych arno beth bynnag, felly mae sawl gweithred ydi Carwyn, felly diolch yn fawr ti am hynny. Os na ragor o sylwadau neu cwestiynau ar y pwynt o'n yna, de? Na, dim byd, felly yn ymlaen yn syth ni at unrhyw fater arall. Sy'n ei wedi cysylltu fi gyda unrhyw beth arall i gyodi, felly dyre ti Eifion mewn gynta, please.
Yeah, okay. Diolch o Weidydd. There's one point I've got to raise. There's one lucky chap sitting on the screen here who's going to be sitting there for the last time. It's it's Clive's last meeting before he retires. I'm not allowed to swear in a public meeting, but he's a lucky chap, put it like that. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of working with Clive. We, Ceredigion and Powis's working relationships go back to 2011, 2012, and we've progressed on a number of different routes and roadmaps working together since that period of time. And I've enjoyed, the opportunity of working very closely with Clive. When we talk about where we are with CJC, Clive was the architect of the governance documents, the original Inter-Authority Agreement 1, the Inter-Authority Agreement 2, Inter-Authority Agreement 3. So where we are today, Clive's the one who's generated the governance structure step by step along that journey. And he's been the constant making sure that we don't deviate from our roles or responsibilities or making decisions that we shouldn't along that journey. So there's a huge amount of knowledge, there's a huge amount of expertise, understanding going out through the door with Clive. And I know that when Emma was appointed, how much she valued your support as well, Clive. She kept on going on and on and on, saying that, I got Clive in my corner, I got Clive in my corner. So, Debbie, no pressure. You've got a hell of a bit of shoes to fill there.
I don't feel it, thanks.
But, Clive, we wish you all the very best in a healthy and happy retirement. And, I'll try not to be too jealous of watching you skipping over the hill. So you've done your last election, you've done your last full council meeting, and now you've done your last CJC meeting. So all the very best, Clive, and thank you for everything.
Diolch yn fawr am ddim mewn. I think you'll have the final word in me, Clive, but from, as co-chair of this committee, I'm dependent on your knowledge and your input anyway, and in a calm and measured way anyway. So, we are dependent on officers like yourselves, and I think, Jake, you're of the same opinion anyway. But in the just over 4 years I've got to know you, Clive, you have been there at the backbone of the Growing Mid Wales and this forum as well anyway. So, pob lwc i ti, Clive, a gweithio i ti mwynhau ymddewoliad.
Thank you, Ivy and Councillor Bryan. Really appreciate those kind words. All I can say is it's been a real pleasure to be your MO. So thank you very much.
Na, diolch yn fawr, Clive. Fi siŵr gael ni gyfle i cael beint yn rolau beth bynnag, ond na, can ddiolch i chi beth bynnag. Felly, os na ddim byd arall, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd, a fysa'n siŵr bryd mae'r cyfarfod nesaf, os oes yna rhywbeth yn y dyddiadur, ond gewch chi ddigon o'r bydd beth yna. Felly, os gyda hynny eiriau, na i dymuno prawn na chi gyd. Felly, hwyl i chi gyd.
Diolch.
Cheerio. Bye-bye all.